Hello everyone, this is Dave from Dave's Recent Things, back by very popular demand and a lot of requests. Today I'm going to be working with the Dollar Tree cross wreath frame. A lot of you love this video. I've done 2 of them in the past. Today makes the 3rd one. So today we're going to do 3 variations using that Dollar Tree cross wreath. Why don't I just get started and I'll show you what I made. The star of the show today is that Dollar Tree cross wreath frame. I also found this Paracord. I love the color of it. We're going to experiment with it today. And along with that, I have some Solawood flowers that I had in my stash. We're going to use those along with this beaded little decor item and my regular crafting utensils to create this project. I'm going to start out with a little bit of hot glue right at the very end of that wire frame, and I'm going to glue that paracord right on there so it's covering it up. So this is the start of me wrapping it around, and then just to start it off as well, I'm going to add a little bit more hot glue on each of those wires along with the side of the cord just to kind of anchor it, cover up that edge, and then really all I start doing is I just start wrapping and wrapping and wrapping and wrapping. If you get the hint by now, I wrap the whole thing, and even when I get to the center, I don't cut the cord, I just keep going. You can kind of see I went on a diagonal there. And I just continued cutting it right at the very end, add a little bit of hot glue down, glue that cord right in place, cut off the excess, and we've got our first row done. And I'm loving the way it looks. Now I'm just gonna do and finish up the cross, wrapping it all the way around. Now before I do that, I'm gonna take some extra cord that I have, wrap it around the little square wire in the middle, and then tie it off, pulling it really nice and tight, making sure it's nice and tight. Then I'm going to cut the excess off, and this is going to be the hanger for our wreath. So I'm going to make sure the knot is right in the center, add a whole bunch of hot glue down there, and I'm also going to add hot glue on the back of that hanger portion just to keep it up so when I'm wrapping, I don't accidentally wrap that hanger at the same time. So this is how we're going to hang that wreath. I have finished wrapping everything and I'm happy with the results. I liked working with that paracord, so if you find some, go for it. Then I'm just placing that little beaded, it kind of reminds me of a rosary, not gonna lie. I saw it and I was like, oh, I think I want this. It kind of reminds me of a rosary. And then I just kind of start gluing down the larger beads just to make sure it's all in place. And then I start placing those Solawood flowers around, trying to figure out which flower I want where, how it's gonna go. I wanted a cluster right in the center to cover up that open area. Once I had my pattern and all the flowers picked out, I just start gluing it all down in place, and I'm just adding various flowers here, and our final result is this beautiful, easy, simple DIY cross wreath using unconventional materials. I just love how this turned out, and I hope you do as well. Here it is hanging on my door. I love how the white background just makes everything pop. A whole bunch of neutral colors, perfect for this cross wreath. Again, we are using that Dollar Tree cross wreath wire form, and these are just shelf liners that I purchased in beige, and of course I had an abundance of floral picks in my stash that I'm going to use today as well, and my regular crafting utensils to create this project. First thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure out the width of my shelf liner, and it's just under 12 inches. If you purchase shelf liner, this is the size that I'm using here. Then I'm going to unroll the entire roll, and then I'm going to fold it in half. And what I'm going to do, these are going to be the strips that I'm going to be using, and then I just cut right down that folded line, as you can see here. I'm going to be using the pull-through method or ruffle method. It has a lot of different names, easy method, etc., etc. I call it the pull-through ruffle method. And what I'm going to be doing is that center wire is where we're going to wrap the shelf liner around. So those 2 open spaces where my fingers are right now is where we're going to insert the shelf liner. So we are going to fold it in half. Where I have my finger right now is where we want the wire to be. And all we're going to do is one finished end, we're going to feed through one opening, the other finished end through the other, and making sure that that wire just lies right in the center at the middle. So you just want to line it up. You can see the wire right in the center there. You line it up, and then what I like to do is with my left hand, I hold all of the material, and with my right hand, I pull it through, even it out, and then of course gather it with my left hand. And I'm just pulling, doing the whole thing all over again, and every now and then I check to see how full it is, if I want to add more, or if it's full enough and I keep going on to the next section, or whether I'm going to add more. So here I'm checking again, I'm looking at it, and I decide, you know what, we're just going to have a little bit more. So I follow that same method of procedure, feeding it with my right hand, gathering it with my left, and you can see it's really nice and easy. This ruffle or pull through method, you don't require a lot of cutting on this. You don't require a lot of bundles. That's why I love this method. Once I have my first section done, I decide I'm going to go to my next section. I'm not going to cut anything this time around. I'm just going to feed that one finished end and that other finished end the exact same way we started. We're going to even it up just by folding it in half, making sure that wire is right in the center. And then we follow that same method of procedure, feeding it with my right hand, gathering it with my left. And you can see I'm finished my first strip, and I'm just going to fluff it up a little bit, make sure it looks like I want it to look and it's nice and even. Pull some through just to make sure they're all even. I'm happy with that. So we have our first strip attached already in our first two sections. What I decided to do, a learning experience, that I decided to cut that very long strip in half. So this is a quarter of the full length that I'm using, and I'm going to do the same method on the other side where we started. So again, we're pulling through the finished edges through those openings with that wire right in the middle, and then I'm just feeding it with my right, making sure it's nice and even, gathering it with my left, and I'm going to use this full quarter strip for one full section. And then we just pull it through right to the end. I don't anchor anything. This is kind of a sticky material, if you will. If you've seen shelf liner before, it is a little bit of a sticky material, so it holds itself. It's not going to go anywhere. And I believe this would weather really, really well. It's plastic, or made from a plastic sort of material, plastic or rubber, if you will. So if you're going to hang this outside, I believe this will weather really, really well. Here we are, a quarter of our, I should say, maybe a half of the cross wreath all done. You can kind of see where we're going with this, and now I'm just going to continue doing those ruffles right all the way to the top, and then the two side bars as well, completing that cross wreath. Now for the top portion, I am skipping, there's a little square that's made by the wires. You can kind of see it there where my left hand is covering. I'm not going to put anything in there. The ruffles are going to cover it enough along with the floral picks. So all I'm going to do is I am going to feed those strips right the same way we did previously, and then that's going to finish off that little top portion. Going to do the exact same thing for the left and the right hand side of our cross, and these are again cut in half. So I've cut them in half, I've cut them in half, and I've cut them in half, if that makes sense. Hopefully that's not too confusing. It just ended up working out a lot better with me doing all those cuts, and there we go. We have our base ruffle wreath all ready to decorate. And before we decorate, I'm just going to take some of that paracord that I had left over from our first DIY. I'm going to feed it right through where that center square wire is, just to make sure it's nice and secure. Tie it off, cut off those edges, make sure the knot is right on the inside, and this is how I'm going to hang this wreath. So it's the exact same way we did it in the DIY number 1, the first cross. We're just going to do it again for this one. And for myself, when I have floral picks, I always like to get prepared. So I cut everything, I take the leaves off, I create my own little piles. It may be a little bit OCD, but it's how I like to do things. And then I like to do a dry run. So I'm just placing everything down without glue right now, figuring out where I want everything to go, adding the leaves, adding the florals, and of course the rose, that big beautiful rose right in the center is our focal point. Once that's all done, I'm going to gather all the greenery right in the center, grab a pipe cleaner. Now you can use wire, floral wire, anything you want. Wrap that around all of my florals. And I just decided to do this instead of gluing everything down piece by piece. I thought this would be a little bit quicker. I'm going to trim off some of those edges that are shown. And then all I'm going to do is take that pipe cleaner, feed it right through the center of that cross wreath, right to the back, twist it a couple of times, make sure it's nice and secure. And then I'm going to even out that floral spray and then just kind of fluff it up a little bit, bending the wires where I want it to go. Then adding a whole bunch of hot glue. And for some reason, look at this, I put so much glue on there. I don't know why. I guess I just didn't want it to go anywhere. And then I just placed that right in the center. Before it dries, I make sure it's centered. And then I'm going to start adding the leaves on there just to add a little bit more interest, a little bit more color on there as well. And to really make that rose pop, I want that rose to pop because it is our focal point. Once I'm all done gluing everything down, you can see our floral bouquet right in the center, and you can see that shelf liner wreath. That is our ruffle method base. I just loved working with this material, and here it is hanging on my door. Again, I can't stop talking about this rose. This is a dollar store rose. I just fell in love with it. I love it, love it, love it. And I hope you do as well for our second cross wreath. No surprise here, we are using the Dollar Tree cross wreath frame along with this checkered 9.5-inch Deco mesh and 10-inch white poly Deco mesh, some pipe cleaners that are coordinating. I had random black and white ribbon, 1.5 and 2.5. We're going to see which ones I use today, and my regular crafting utensils along with my wood burning tool to create this project today. I'm going to start off with my cuts, and the magic number today is 10 inches, so we are cutting our Deco mesh at the 10-inch mark. What I'm using is my wood burning tool today to cut my Deco mesh. On top of my mat, I do have a glass cutting board. You can kind of see it a little bit with the reflective of the lights. And then all I'm going to do is I'm going to use my wood burning tool to cut at the 10-inch mark. So right here, I'm cutting my 10 inches with our white Deco mesh at 10 inches and at 20 inches, and I'm using that wood burning tool. Now, when you use the wood burning tool, please be careful. Open up a window. There are some fumes that come out with it. Watch the tip. It is really hot. And with the wood burning tool, it actually seals your Deco mesh so it stops fraying. I shouldn't say it stops the fraying, it reduces the fraying a ton. It is a little bit better. I should say no, it is a lot better than using your scissors or a rotary cutter because it does seal the mesh. Once I get all of my pieces cut for the white, I'm going to come in with that black checkered and cut those at 10 inches at well. So I have white Deco mesh, black and white checkered Deco mesh. Now each color, I'm doing 10 pieces cut at the 10-inch mark. So that's 10-inch lengths. And it's going to be 100 inches in total of Deco mesh, which is approximately 9 feet or approximately 3 yards of Deco mesh to create the same project that I'm creating today. Once I have everything cut, it's time to make our little bundles, and we're making petals today. So what I'm doing is we have our 10 by 10 square. I'm gathering the one corner and the opposite corner together to create a triangle. I'm going to grab a little clip holding that corner right together. Now we have our triangle shape. We're going to turn it around, and our folded edge is on the right hand side. Then I'm going to take the bottom corner of our triangle and I'm just going to roll it up a little bit. This is how I like to do it. You don't have to do this. I like to do this. It's just a little roll right at the bottom. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to squish together that Deco mesh right down the center in line with our point. That's where I'm going to stop. And then I'm going to work on the other edge. I'm going to roll it over just a couple of times. And then we're going to squish that right down in a straight line right to meet our left hand. Hold it there. I'm going to take the clip off because it's a little bit easier to add our pipe cleaner. And this is a pipe cleaner that I just cut in half. Find that center, add it right at that end, clipping it all the way around. and then twisting it a couple of times to create our first little petal. And you can just fluff it up a little bit like you saw me do there. And we have, it's almost like a spoon, if you will. So there's like a little divot and then the full portion where the petal is. And again, so we're taking one end, matching it to the other to create a little triangle. I'm going to grab a clip just to hold that one corner in place. I'm going to turn it around so my folded edge is on the right hand side. Fold up that bottom, rolling it just a couple of times. And then we're going to walk up the center in a straight line, just following that straight line that I showed you there, meeting the point. And then we're going to work on the upper portion, folding it down, and then we're going to gather that all together to meet our left hand. I'll take that clip off, grab that pipe cleaner that I cut in half, and then all I'm going to do is twist it around a couple of times right at the end, and that's going to create another one of our petals. So you can see there, you can fluff it up a little bit, straighten it out, creating that beautiful petal portion. And the way you want to have the pipe cleaners is you want to have the two V shapes like I'm showing you right here, the pipe cleaner stems facing down. So wherever that spoon portion is, concave, convex, I can never remember which one it is. But the one where it creates the little spoon, you want to have that pointing in the same direction. So I'm going to continue on making these bundles, just following the same method of procedure I showed you previously, and I'm going to make 10 of each color. So 10 of the white and 10 of the black and white checkered. To attach it, we're going to use those two middle wires from the cross wreath frame. There's 4 of them there. For us, we're going to use the 2 middle ones. And what I'm going to do is open up my pipe cleaner stems a little bit. They're going to go on the outside openings. And we're just going to attach it right there. I'm going to flip the wire frame over face down, have our pipe cleaner stems facing up, feed those pipe cleaners through the 2 outside openings, making sure the 2 wires are on the inside, and then we're going to twist it around a couple of times to make sure it's nice and secure. Let's just flip it over and see how it looks. I'm happy with that. It covers the end. I'm happy with that black and white checkered. Now we're going to add a white one, and we're going to do the same method of procedure, using those 2 inside wires and those pipe cleaners, feeding it through the openings on the outside, and then just wrapping it around a couple of times, making sure it's nice and secure. Let's flip it over. I'm liking how this looks. And since we're not gluing anything or it's not anchored down, you can move it up and down. And then I'm going to alternate the attachments with the black and white checkered, and then the white, black and white checkered, and then the white. So I'm alternating between my 2 different colors of Deco mesh. Now the colors, you can choose anything you want. You don't have to go with these colors if you don't want. You can do any colors, a solid color, a pattern. I mean, the choice is endless here. And then for each of the sides on the left and the right hand side of the cross, I follow the exact same procedure. I'm going to start with the black and white, attach it to the center 2 wires, attach a white one, another black and white one, and then just keep going on and on. So I've finished off the left hand side, and then I'm going to work on the right hand side doing the exact same method of procedure, attaching that Deco mesh on there. And then I'm going to do the top portion exactly the same way, making sure everything's twisted on there. And then of course we're going to add our final petal on there, which is white right in the center, figuring out where I want it to go, and our base is all done. For our bow, you know I'm going to do a bow today. I decided to use these 2 1.5 inch wired ribbon. I'm going to lay them on top of each other, measure out 12 inches, gather it, place all that into my left hand, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure out the 11 inches. So this will be 5.5 inch loops, gather it together, bring that and hold that into my left hand. And you can see the 2 colors work absolutely beautiful together. I mean, it's black and white. How could it go wrong? But I love the patterns together. Then I'm just going to make sure that my ribbon is facing up. I'm having a little difficulty with this ribbon today. I don't know why. Usually the ribbon rolls are fine. I've been fussing around with it. We're going to measure out 11 inches again, creating another loop, making sure our ribbon faces up by twisting it right in the center. laying that down with the good side facing up, measuring out 11 inches again, gathering it, bringing it together to my left hand, and then our final measurement is going to be another tail. So we started with the tail, we did 3 loops, and then I'm going to cut at 12 inches, grab a full-length pipe cleaner, wrap it around the center, twist it a couple of times, and then we've created our first segment. I'm going to dovetail the edge of our tails just to add that finishing touch that I always love, and then I'm just going to separate our ribbons, fluff them up a little bit. This is the first segment. I'm going to not spend too much time fluffing it up, but that's our first segment done. For our second segment, I'm going to use this black, gray, and white stripped, and I'm going to do 9-inch tail and 8-inch loops for this one. And I'm going to do the same method we did previously. This time, I'm going to do the 3 loops and 2 tails, grab a pipe cleaner that's only cut in half, I should say, a half pipe cleaner, and then we've created our second segment, along with cutting off those dovetails right at the bottom to finish it off. And then my final piece, I'm going to cut at 6 inches, grab my stapler, create a little tube with it, staple that together so we don't burn our hands with the hot glue. Now we have our 3 segments all ready, and I'm going to have a half pipe cleaner ready as well. We're going to attach that just by feeding the pipe cleaners right through the center, twisting it at the back, and then I'm going to cut the excess off of that second segment. For our final segment is that little loop that or little tube that we created. Before I attach that, I do like to fluff up just a little bit. Feed that half pipe cleaner through our little tube, add it to the center, feeding the pipe cleaners right through the back. Cut off that excess. Now those 2 long stems we're not going to cut. That's how we're going to attach that to our wreath. And you know, it is Dave's Wreaths and Things. I'm going to spend a lot of time fluffing today. I'm not going to show you, but I did spend a lot of time. I needed that therapeutic fluffing, but here is our bow ready for our wreath. Here's our base wreath back. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take those pipe cleaner stems, feed them right through the center of that wire frame where I want to attach our bow. And then right at the back, feed it through, pull it a little bit tight, twist it a couple of times, and then guess what? Fluffing session number 7. I'm joking. But really, here is our final result of our Deco Mesh petal and bow cross wreath. I'm not going to lie, I was a little hesitant trying the black and white for the cross, but in the end, it won me over, and I hope it won you over as well. Look at this on my door. Just gorgeous. I was so in love with it once it was done. I thought maybe it was too much black and white. I thought maybe it was too simple, but really in the end with that bow, I think it was just the chef's kiss for this. Going back to our first cross wreath with that paracord and our Solawood Flowers and our rosary looking little decor, our shelf liner ruffle base wreath with that roses and floral picks, and of course the finishing touch was our black and white Deco Mesh cross wreath. I loved making all 3 of these cross wreaths today, and I hope you enjoyed it as well. Thank you so much for joining me and watching me today. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can be notified whenever I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. Bye for now.